Hi! Li Xiang diligently practices Kung Fu and never misses a training session. The girl studies techniques with Wing Chun elements and keeps herself in great shape. Li Xiang expects to become the finalist of the National Martial Arts Championship. At the end of the video, we will find out who will prevail in the fierce end battle and what the winner's main advantage is. Li and her friends are casually strolling through the city streets. They enter a restaurant that serves boiled crayfish. The girls excitedly discuss the upcoming National Martial Arts Championship. Li has qualified to participate. However, the girl doesn't want her father to come and watch the championship. At the next table sits Yu Dabao, the school's biggest bully, and his gang. A waiter in a crawfish costume gives them the bill, and Yu makes a humiliating show of it. He mockingly yells that the food here is not spicy and he is not going to pay for it. His crew laughs sneeringly, supporting their leader. Li Xiang cannot tolerate this injustice. She walks over to Yu Dabao's table, points to the food they have eaten, and demands to pay the bill. The boy contemptuously throws the money on the floor and walks away. The girl picks it up, hands it to the waiter, and apologizes for her classmate's behavior. Yu Dabao also does Kung Fu. The boy has lots of experience in street fights. His father makes Yu fight as if his life depends on it. The boy is not focused and calm when fighting. Unlike true masters of Kung Fu, he quickly gets angry and furiously lashes out at his opponents. At his father's command, he is ready to finish off opponents who are already on the ground. Both Li Xiang and Yu study at the Wuhan School of Martial Arts. At recess, the students gather in the canteen. There, the boy continues to misbehave by tripping Li's friend, Mikurako, causing him to fall and spill his food. The injured boy asks his friend not to get involved in the quarrel, but belligerently, Li is already on her way toward the bullies. The girl sits across from Yu Dabao, demonstratively eating fries. However, the boy doesn't want to get into an open confrontation and leaves with his friends, only to get back at her when nobody's looking. A little later, Li finds her clothes shredded in the washing machine. Yu has also damaged her training weapon and planted frogs in her lunch. The girl receives a call from her father, who says he misses her. She hasn't been home for a month and asks her to come over next weekend to eat spicy crayfish together. However, Li does not want to see her father and refuses under the pretext of being busy. Li Xiang learns that Yu Dabao has organized a street tournament and goes there to openly fight him in hand-to-hand combat. Before the fight, the rivals make a deal. If Yu Dabao loses, he will wear a dress. If Li Xiang loses, she will cut her hair and wear men's clothes. The fight begins. Each of them unleashes precise blows at the enemy with incredible speed. But the defense of both is as good as the offense, and for the first few minutes the confrontation seems equal. Unexpectedly, Yu Dabao misses a kick to the body, and then starts fighting like his father taught him, as if his life depends on it. Li gets weaker under her opponent's powerful attacks and misses a strike to the stomach. And then Yu Dabao finishes her off. Li Xiang can't even manage to get on her feet, while the ruthless Yu Dabao is already holding out scissors for her to cut her hair. The next day, the girl comes to school with short hair, wearing a man's shirt. The students mock and make fun of her. Yu Dabao taunts her as well, and as a result, Li pounces on him right in the classroom. For this, the teacher sends the girl to the principal's office. Without further ado, the principal calls her father. In response to the news about the school fight, he explains that the girl's mother died in a car accident a year ago, and that he lost his job right after that. Now the man works part-time during his day and develops a VR game at night. This has affected the girl for the worst, but he asks to give her another chance. The principal softens after hearing the story and lets Li go without punishment. Upset, Li sits alone on a bench. Her thoughts are interrupted by the kind waiter from the restaurant. The girl does not know yet that it's her father dressed in a costume. To cheer his daughter up a bit, he brings her a meal of boiled spicy crayfish. In the evening, her father asks Li to visit him again, for he wants to tell her something very important. Her father meets the girl with a question about her haircut. Li answers reluctantly, trying to keep her distance, but she does end up telling him that she lost a fight and cut her hair because of it. She fought a boy who bullies the weak and wanted to avenge all those he hurt in a one-on-one fight. Mr. Xiang replies that martial arts are meant for strengthening the body and protecting oneself, not for aggression. Li doesn't want to listen to the teachings of the man who didn't keep her mother safe. She openly blames her father for her death and confesses that she hates him. Her father leaves Li alone. The curious girl goes to his room. On the dresser, she finds a pendant with her mother's picture in it. Behind her father's desk, she finds VR glasses and puts them on. Li enters virtual reality an old town with wooden buildings, all inhabitants of which wear traditional clothes. She immediately finds herself on the battlefield and engages in combat. Her kung fu technique in the game is very good. Her father, meanwhile, is watching her with Mr. Fang, whom he invited to test the game. Another character, a young boy who looks just like Yu Dabao, is fighting the enemies too. After defeating the henchmen, the characters face off against the leader of the gang. The battle goes over provision. The bandits have robbed the town of Wuyu and stolen food from the villagers. The boy forcibly returns the stolen goods, and the defeated man with his gang escape from sight. Li Xiong follows Yu and asks why he is in her game. The character replies that his name is Yun He, and he is protecting the city from bandits named Wang Shoshan and Wang Li, who are stealing food supplies. The defeated bandit, meanwhile, reports his failure. Wang Shoshan orders his accomplice to find Yun He and deal with him. Yun He takes Li to the central square, where the girl sees students practicing kung fu. She notes that their ancient mastery is stunningly beautiful and asks Yun He to teach her. Later, Li again sees a familiar face in town. It's Gigi, one of Yu Dabao's gang members. However, the boy, who is calmly chewing rice, says that his name is Yeshong. At the same time, the kid realizes that only somebody who's not from here may not know his name, and thinking Li Xiong is a robber, sets off the alarm drum. The students encircle Li Xiong, and she is ready to take the fight. But at that moment, the master of Wuyu appears in front of her, in whom Li recognizes the school principal. The master is welcoming and orders that the girl be given a place to rest. Yun He escorts her to her room, where he himself collapses without strength. The master orders him to be taken to Xiaobai for recovery. The healer of Xiaobai, a frail-looking girl, comes down to them straight from heaven to escort them to her hut. She places Yun He on the bed and agrees to the kid's request to fight. Even together, Li and Yeshong can't defeat her. However, while the boys were struggling, the sick boy disappeared, and the healer instructs Li to bring him back. Finding the boy turned out to be easy. He ran away to get back to training. Li catches him doing just that. Yun He is effortlessly soaring through the air like a feather. Yun He takes her for a walk around town. The two approach an old hut. In the window, Li sees a hermit who has spent 5 years there alone. The girl is frightened by the sight. And then, Xiaobai comes running to the screams and tells her that it is her father, Kung Fu Master Bai Dai. He was traveling the world when Xiaobai's mother became gravely ill, and he didn't get to see her alive again. It was after that that the man locked himself in the hut, grieving and blaming himself. Li Xiong hears students practicing Kung Fu. She admires the beauty of their skills and wants to be able to do the same. Yeshong offers her a lesson. Yun He also teaches the girl and shows her unusual ancient techniques, which she remembers precisely. In the meantime, Wuyu Town is experiencing food difficulties. Rice supplies are running low, and residents must switch from 3 meals a day to 2. The kids are alarmed by this and discuss over lunch how to save the town from starvation. Eventually, they decide to venture into the bandits' lair at night to take back the rice they stole from them. Yeshong puts the guards to sleep with tranquil darts, and the heroes easily get to the food warehouse. But the night adventure ends with the enemies taking Xiaobai hostage. The townfolk and the Kung Fu Master are grateful to the kids for the rice, but Li has to tell the truth. They robbed the bandits, and Xiaobai was taken hostage. Li begs to save the girl, but the Kung Fu Master refuses. He has no intention of breaking the peace agreement that was made years ago. The girl is disappointed by the Master's decision. After all, they only did it so that the disciples would have enough to eat. In desperation, the girl walks to Master Bai's hut. Sitting on the steps, the girl informs him that his daughter is being held hostage by his enemies. She asks Master Bai for help and tells him that she has long hated her father because of her mother's death in a car accident. But after all, the accident was not his fault, and despite her hatred, he treats her well and misses her. Li realizes that she treats her father unfairly, and then Master Bai, who looks exactly like Mr. Xiong, exits his years-long confinement. The group immediately goes to the bandit village. The villains are surprised by the appearance of Master Bai. They thought he had been dead for years. With fewer people but greater skills, the heroes win the battle. Xiaobai is delighted to see her father. He proposes that his daughter leave the city of Wuyu and travel around the world to help the unfortunate and destitute. He assures the kids that they are strong enough to defend the town of Wuyu. Wang Shoshan and his brother Wang Li, meanwhile, have just learned what had happened and decide to attack the city. Li and Yun He sense that a fight is imminent and try to come up with a plan. The girl guesses that her father has left her a clue in the game. Wang Won Lee has her mother's pendant around his neck, and if she takes it away, the opponent will become weaker. An hour later, the army of bandits is standing in front of the gates of Wuyu. Our heroes are once again outnumbered, and the brothers expect an easy victory. Their goal is to wipe out the villagers and capture Yun He alive. The battle begins, easily dispatching the ordinary opponents. Lee immediately looks to take on Wang Lee, and Yun He wants to fight Shoshin. Lee even manages to reach the opponent, trying to tear off his pendant, but is defeated in the battle and gets kicked out of the game. Lee is not willing to give up, so she puts her helmet back on. Her character is revived in the midst of battle, and with new strength, she easily defeats the enemy and opens the pendant. The bandits' army vanishes into thin air, leaving the leader alone, and Li Shang strikes the decisive blow. The battle is over. The fighting and anxiety are now in the past. Lee is resting in the garden among the cherry blossoms. Yun He appears and offers to take the girl on a journey around the world with him. The girl replies that she will now go home and take care of her father. This is the end of the game, and Lee returns to reality. With tears in her eyes, she hugs her father. Mr. Shang says that Lee is the only one who has managed to complete the game. Their joyful meeting is interrupted by Mr. Fang, with the great news that he thinks the game is great, and he is ready to become an investor. Time passes. The national championship begins at the Wuhan School of Martial Arts. Boys and girls have to fight each other. To get to the finals, you have to go through 4 qualifying stages. Lee advances to the first elimination round. The referee explains the rules. No strikes at elbows, knees, or the back of the head. The girl effortlessly defeats the first opponent, as well as the next one, and easily takes the top position in the tournament standings. Yu Dabao takes over his opponents just as easily. He will face Li Shang in the final battle. Commentators announce the participants of the final battle. The competitors are 12 years old. Yu Dabao has the advantage of being 1 meter 70 centimeters tall and has excellent traditional kung fu technique. Li Shang is 1 meter 50 centimeters tall. However, she is very flexible and has good Wing Chun skills. Commentators believe that it's impossible to determine the winners in advance. While preparing for the final round in the locker room, Li finds a gift from her father. It's the traditional cloak that she wore in the game, fighting and winning. The girl puts it on for the final battle, but notices that her father's chair in the spectator hall is empty. The first round begins. The referee explains the rules. No strikes at the elbows, knees, or back of the head. The opponent's skills are equal, and when the gong sounds, there is no clear winner. So Yu decides to go for a forbidden strike after the round is over. Enduring excruciating pain, Lee rises to continue the fight. It's time for round 2. Yu attacks aggressively, just as his father taught him to do. Lee, on the other hand, is focused and attentive. She easily dodges her opponent's attacks and knocks him to the ground with a kick to the back. The speed of their strikes is getting faster and faster, but the battle is still tied. Yu Dabao again makes an illegal move and kicks the girl in the knee. She squirms in terrible pain, but rises again with the help of her coach to continue fighting. It seems that she has no energy left before the 3rd round. The girl is in horrible pain, and her opponent just gets some points taken off for cheating. The final stretch begins, in which, catching the right moment, Yu punches Li Shang in the back of the head. The girl is on the verge of losing consciousness. She recalls her mother's words that she must fight and never retreat. Lee also sees her father, who is no longer hiding under the suit, and realizes that it was him who was there for her at a difficult moment in her life. This gives the girl the strength to stand up and continue the battle. The crowd supports her and boos Yu Dabao. Though the outcome of the battle seems to be decided, the 3rd round goes on. Lee recalls the ancient technique she learned in the virtual game and knocks her opponent down with a series of incredible blows. Yu Dabao cannot get back to his feet. It's a victory. The audience cheers, and the judges declare the girl the champion of the National Tournament of Martial Arts. The loser Yu stops doing his shenanigans at school. He feels humiliated and turns into a loner without a gang of like-minded bullies. Nevertheless, the noble Li Shang approaches him herself to offer a truce. As always, you'll find the movie title in the description of the video. Have you ever had a similar situation in your life? When you lost a battle but won the war? Share your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next retelling.